The basic Lakota star knowledge concept is that reality begins within. So, that's where our communication should start too. Now, how do we do this? Well, this is what our ancestors discovered. First of all, humans appeared on this earth at a time when there was only one continent, and that's several million years ago. Okay? So the anthropologists and archaeologists, they don't know what they're talking about. They place humans here at 12,000 years or something like that, and that is totally, they're just as bad as the Christians in their Bible who say, Adam is the first man. That when you look at the Bible and the way you date it from using what information is there, that would say that humans were only here 6,000 years. Yeah, but that's silly. That's not the case. Lakota Star Knowledge puts us here at several million years ago, and because the stories talk about these things. Yeah, the stories talk about the time when there was only one continent, and that people appeared about the same time in 5 different locations, and they gradually interacted with one another. And in those days, there wasn't a bunch of skin colors. Okay, they were basically the same color, basically. And the one thing that they learned is that they all laugh, cry, get angry, get scared at the same kind of things. And they all need earth, wind, fire, and water to live, and we all bleed red. And what a very wonderful thing is that all the babies speak the same language, no matter where they're from. Yeah, that was a very cool thing that they discovered. So, excuse me. So after they interacted, they started to learn things, like when you take care of yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, you're building peace in your life. These are the 4 parts of the self. You can use a medicine wheel to represent that. Your body, your mind, your heart, and your soul. Heart meaning emotions. Okay? They're all connected to each other. If one goes down, the rest go down. Okay? If you focus too much on one component, the other 3 are going to be neglected, and they're going to bring the 4th one down. So either way, if you don't take care of the 4 parts as best as you can, you're going to get sick. You're going to get disease. Okay? So, this process, like I said, it includes taking care of yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And when you experience a difficulty, it doesn't matter how it comes to you, whether it's because of something you did or because of something somebody else did, or it just came out of the blue. Because that happens. Yeah, that happens in nature. Things just happen out of the blue. And we get difficulties just out of the blue too. It doesn't matter how it comes. You treat it the same way. You learn it. Yeah, you take time. Excuse me. You look at it from every angle that you can. You learn as much as you can from it. You make the best of the situation, and as you're doing this, the emotions that came with that experience begin to leave. So you don't feel angry anymore. You don't feel sad. You don't feel You don't feel scared anymore. They leave. But see, you have to do the work. You have to make the best of it. Yeah, you have to learn and make the best of it. Then peace comes into your life, and you're gaining knowledge, you're gaining wisdom, and you are also developing emotionally, and that allows you to then develop spiritually. Yeah, and your body's physically well, your mind is sound, you have clarity, and the more you live this way, the more beauty you see in this world. Yeah, and the more you learn from tragedy. So, it's not about what's good and what's bad. It's about, you know, learning and enjoying. Because sometimes good things happen out of the blue. You didn't do anything. It just happens. And that's for you to enjoy. It's just like with difficulties. It doesn't matter how it came to you, whether it's because of something you did or something somebody else did or it just came out of the blue. Good things, like difficulties, happen just out of the blue. Nature teaches this to us. The same thing happens in nature. And that's where we learn that from, because we're living with nature. We are not trying to control nature. We cannot do that. It's not possible. Yeah? So we live with nature. And we learn. Yeah? And when good times happen, we enjoy it. When difficulties happen, we learn from it. This is how we live. And this is how we love. That's the way of the ancestors. So when you live this way, you're having peace and you're nurturing it by this lifestyle or through this lifestyle. And it shows in the way you communicate. You communicate in a healthy way. When people communicate to you, it doesn't matter what they say to you. You know how to deal with it. You know how to process it. Whether it's, somebody cussing you out or somebody trying to snag you, you know how to handle it. Yeah? You know where to direct it so it doesn't stay in you. When it's unhealthy, yeah? You know how to direct it so it doesn't stay in you. And when it's healthy, you know how to handle that so that stays in you and blesses you. Yeah. So that's what I mean. So all of this is based on this fact that reality begins within. So you live in this way, so when you communicate, you're communicating from within yourself. You're not communicating as a Lakota. You're not communicating as a German. You're communicating as a human. And this is the reason why our ancestors called themselves the Ikje Oyate, the common people, the human nation. Yeah, this is doesn't say Lakota. Yeah, back then, that word doesn't even exist yet. It says Ikje Oyate. That's humans. Not Lakota, it's humans. I'm a human being. I'm a human man. I'm a human woman. I live with nature because I'm a part of it. What happens to me affects them. What happens to them affects me too. We're all connected to each other. All of nature can be categorized into a medicine wheel too. Yeah, beginning with that which moves and grows, being called takushkanshka or takushka, moving to the four-leggeds, hutopa, then moving to the two-leggeds, hunumpa, then moving to the winged, hupahu. All this is creation. This is all nature. We're in there too. We're all part of it. We're not above anybody. That's how we lived for millions of years. And then, as we started settling in different parts of this continent, some people went very north. Some people lived in places that were really close to the sun. And this happened millions of years, this process, and this is where skin color developed, and hair texture, and eye color, and height as well. Their bodies had to adapt to the ecosystem that they lived in. So that's why the bodies changed. Yeah, they changed skin colors. They changed hair texture, eye colors. Languages started forming, coming from the earth. Yeah, this is how that all started. We were not created as a skin color. We were created as Ikche Oyate. So that's the foundation of this show, is this teaching, this understanding. And everything revolves around that. Yeah? So, the next thing that happened is that as people started to develop skin colors, see, they're living apart from each other now. Yeah? But as they come in contact with each other, they start focusing on the skin color or the language. Because sometimes they're the same skin color, but they're different groups, and their languages are different. So sometimes they focus on the language, and people stopped communicating from their sacred centers. They started communicating from their skin colors. Now, oppression is coming into the picture, and this is duality. When you think, excuse me, that your people are better than others, this is duality. Because you're rising above others now. You're violating nature. Because remember what I said just a few minutes ago. In the beginning, we saw ourselves as part of nature. We're not above it. But millions of years later, we started to try to rise above each other based on appearance, language, skin color. So now when things develop like racism, paternalism, where you think that you know what's right for everybody because your your culture is smarter than others, and you judge others. You judge other cultures by your cultural standards. That's ethnocentrism. And then people started saying, my way or our way is the correct way. That's dogma. And it's all used to oppress one another. This is duality. This started happening. Then people started using things to rise above each other. They started to develop technology to use it against each other. The stories in this time talk about that people used to travel really long distances through the air and through the ground. That's really interesting. Yeah, there's lots of wonderful stories like that in Lakota Star Knowledge. But when they were doing this, they were doing this. Excuse me. Let me say that sentence again. As they were doing this, they were violating the earth more and more because they're taking things from the earth to make this technology. And when they do this, it has waste. So they begin poisoning the earth. They begin poisoning the water. They begin poisoning the air. And they abuse fire to do all these things. And finally the earth says enough is enough. The earth is alive. The earth has volition. The earth can choose to do what she wants to do. And by this time the earth was a very wise woman. And she called to her children for safety. I'm going to cleanse myself, she said. Everything is really no good, so I'm going to cleanse myself now. And she called out to everybody. The animals heard her. They went to their hiding places, and just a few humans heard her. Because just a few humans were the only ones that were still living the ancient way. They were not dualistic. They were not trying to rise above each other. They were not communicating from their skin color. They were communicating from their sacred center. And that is also the location of a piece of the grandmother earth inside of you. This is how they heard her voice. They were they were living the ancestral way so that they were communicating from their sacred center, and the piece of grandmother earth is there, so when she talks, they heard it. And they went to safety. So from all nations, just little bit people were saved. Mostly everybody, including Lakota ancestors. Most Lakota ancestors became corrupt. A lot of people like to think, oh, it was only the Lakota people that were saved. No, that's not true. That is absolutely not true. Most of our ancestors were just as corrupt as the others. We were not the only ones that were saved. Yeah? It was a little bit from all nations. We're still living that ancestral way. They didn't see each other as skin color. So they were saved. They were able to hear Grandmother Earth's voice calling them for safety. And when everybody who heard the voice was in a safe place, now the cleansing began. That means most humans were destroyed with their technology. She took it to the center and melted it all. So no more, doesn't exist anymore. And she started new again. And when she started new, the continent broke up. Now it's the way it is. That's what the story says. That's just the beginning. But what I want to kind of point out, though, is that, see, it's starting to happen again today. With, with oil mines and oil drilling and all these things, it's starting to happen again. And people are racist, including Indians. Most Indians today, I guarantee you, are racist. You go to the reservation, you go to get into a discussion about ceremonies, and I guarantee you, one guy is going to say, you see, that's the problem with the white man. Or if you're white, they're going to see, that's what the problem is with you white people. You don't see it like that. And then about everybody sitting there who's Indian is going to say, yeah, that's right. This is racism. Just stand up and get out. You don't have time for that shit. It doesn't matter how many sun dances these people do. It's not going to do them one damn good because they're racist. And every ceremony they do is killing their own people because they have hatred in their hearts. You see what I mean? Plus, you don't need that ceremony. What you need is this way to live. Because, see, the Sundance, that did not exist back then. The Sundance ceremony is not even 2,000 years old. The knowledge I'm talking about is millions of years old. That's more important because that's dealing with your sacred center, where reality begins. This is the way the universe was created. The universe was not created like a Sundance. That's a cultural thing. That's focusing on the outer identity. That's not important. What's important is inside. And a lot of people use these ceremonies and they use it in a racist way. And then you have people who are not Indian that have really low self-esteem, and they don't want to be their culture. They want to be Indian. And that's really, really sad to see, because it's like they're going the wrong way. It doesn't matter what color skin you are. It doesn't matter what culture you come from. It doesn't even matter concerning the history of your culture and what they did. That doesn't matter. What matters is deep down inside you where your reality begins. That is the most important thing. So don't be going around saying, "Oh, I'm sorry for what my ancestors did to your ancestors. Here's $1.50. Is that forgiveness? Hey, can I have your forgiveness? I'll make you a bologna sandwich." Oh man, I heard things like that. That's where I got that from. Oh my goodness. You're only responsible for your actions, not your ancestors. Yeah? So you have to live your life the way you want to live it, and I just presented you the ancestral way. Now that's up to you. It has nothing to do with being Indian. It has everything to do with being you. Your reality begins within. And when you're doing this, see, there's a universe inside of you. Yeah? So when you live this way, this universe is at peace. It's when something goes wrong, it's able to settle itself eventually. Yeah? It is alive, it's communicating to each other. Yeah, your body parts are communicating to each other. The atoms that make up your body parts are communicating to each other. It's all connected. How you live, how you think affects that. So you can play a big role in your physical well-being by how you think. Yeah, that's where reality begins. It's not the ceremony that you do or the prayers that you say or the songs that you sing. It's how you think. How do you live? How do you process your experiences, your difficulties? How do you treat them? How do you treat your blessings? See, that decides how your universe is inside of you. And if you do this in a healthy way, nature projects that out. So people feel it. They feel good when you come around. Huh? And you're able to be at peace with others. You don't have to agree. Being at peace does not mean agree. That's people get the wrong idea when they say to have peace everybody must agree. No, that is not peace. Peace includes agreeing to disagree. That means both people vow to not force their ideas upon the other. Can still have peace. Yeah. So that's what happened. That's the way it is. And getting back to our ancestors who were destroyed, see, remember what I told you? They tried to rise above each other. They oppressed one another. And as they were doing this, see, they also were losing self-esteem. They were losing self-worth. And they began to be emotionally insecure and develop inferiority complexes. As they became abusers, they lost sight of these things. And others became victims. They have everything in common that I just said. They have low self-esteem, low self-worth, emotional insecurity, inferiority complex. That's what they have in common. And the more they live in this way, the less reality they see. They look at something. Lakota Star Knowledge says there's at least 3 components to everything. So when dualistic people look at something, they just find the part they like, and throw the rest away, calling it bad. This is how good versus evil was created. It was created by man. Yeah? And then that's where these ideas come. That if you're not with me, you're against me. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. That is complete bullshit. That's pure shit. That's coming from duality. That's used to force you to do something, to go to either this side or that side, and then they say you can't walk the fence, man. That's bullshit. There is a middle ground. There always is a middle ground. The most minute building block of the universe shows there's a middle ground. Yeah, with your electrons, your protons, and your neutrons. But that's just 3. Who said that there's only 3? Remember, Lakota star knowledge says there's at least 3. That means in many cases there's more than 3. But there's never just 2. That's what I'm saying. In a dualistic people, they only see 2. Yeah? And from those 2 pieces, they only keep 1. So, remember what I said in Lakota Star Knowledge? It says there's at least 3 parts. A dualistic person chooses one and says that he likes and says that's the good one. That means the other 2 parts become the bad one and they get lumped together. But it's still 2 parts. So he's only accepting 1/3 of that. And the other 2/3 he rejects. So what this is saying is that he only accepts and comprehends 33% of the reality of that situation. 33% is 1/3. 1 divided by 3 is 33%. That's why they're so thick-headed. You cannot talk sense into them because they can't comprehend it. They're dualistic as hell. And then there are other dualistic people that know. They don't reject it, but what they do is they use it to oppress others. And they create all kinds of fancy belief systems, even creating a super perfect being that knows everything, that is complete and totally perfect, and saying, he's on our side. And suddenly it's a he, yeah? This is men coming up with this idea. That's why I'm saying that. Yeah? And then they create the enemy, make him really ugly, and say, if you don't join us, then that's your God. And you, after you die, you're going to burn forever. Shoot. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So this is that's coming from duality. Yeah, that's coming from men. That's a man-made concept to control and oppress others. Remember, when Christianity began, they had an army. Now, I'm not talking about Christ. Christ never called his people Christians. He never did. Yeah? He never called his people Christians. They called themselves the saints. Yeah? They did not call themselves Christians. That's a modern expression. But the first people to organize like that were the Catholics. And they had an army. And they used that army to oppress other religious nations, like the Jewish people, the Muslim nations. They used it was war. And that has never stopped. It's still going on today. It's crazy, isn't it? All this is because of men. So the dualistic thinking does just as much damage as the oil companies do. So it's not if when Grandmother Earth cleanses herself again, it's not going to be because of just the oil companies. Yeah, it's going to be because of dualistic people, people who create religions to oppress one another. It's going to be because of them too, and everybody who follows it. So this is why this show is existing here, trying to help the Grandmother Earth as much as I can here to get people to really think about their lives. Yeah? Because you never know when that's going to happen. Christ, things are happening just fast. It gets faster as technology grows. It gets faster and faster, and it's good cause for alarm. But remember, Lakota Star Knowledge says the most important moment is the present moment. Stay in the present moment. Yeah? Stay in the present moment. Don't worry about the future. It's not here yet. When you stay in the present moment, you influence the future. So if you are in the present moment and you're living a healthy life, you're influencing a healthy future. So you can slow it down. Who knows? Maybe a miracle will happen and you'll be able to stop it entirely. Anything is possible. Some of the things that are happening in this world, they happened before. Yeah? And it's in Lakota Star Knowledge story, so if you want to know what the future is like, then you can get a good idea of what it might be like when you look at these stories and see what happens next. Yeah? So, but don't let that worry you, though. That's the thing, is don't let that worry you, because remember, the ones that were saved were the ones that were living in the present moment. Yeah? That's why I'm telling you, live in the present moment. You get it now? Good. Okay.